Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stoked, the ultimate Star Trek online podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Well, hey there, J-Man.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
We took a week off.
I know.
This time you guys knew about it.
Yeah, we stretched our legs a bit, and
we don't want to hear you complaining.
Now we're here at 91.
Yeah.
We arrived at episode 91, and while we took the week off, Cryptic pushed out a bunch of new stuff that we're going to talk about.
Including kind of a ninja update that everybody's excited about. We've got it behind us.
Ninja update.
Well, it came really quick to Holodeck. It
Yeah.
didn't live on Tribble for very long at all.
It was probably had been cooked for quite a while.
Probably.
The other thing we got is quite a juicy engineering report that we're going to have to tear through. Also, a ton of new information on the Enterprise F. Kind of a lot. In fact, that's going to be one of our first topics.
And a deluxe edition of Tweet Leaks.
Yeah, definitely a deluxe edition. And then we've got a whole new community feedback segment towards the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. It's a poll, and we want you to vote. The polls are open, but only until the next episode. So time is limited.
Yeah, especially because this episode comes out on Tuesday. We're going to close the poll on Saturday when we film the next episode. So you only have a few days. Check the notes.
Yeah, check the show notes over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. All right, J-Man, let's jump into it. First thing is a little bit of good news for you Foundry authors.
Almost. The Foundry has been
more
reopened.
Like for the players.
Yeah, the Foundry's been reopened for you to be able to play missions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, many of the missions good news is they fixed like thousands of missions and got them republished.
That's awesome.
Bad news is many of them are not fixed.
Yeah, and
including my own.
And you still can't edit.
You still cannot edit yourself.
It really is mostly just for the players.
It really is. Foundry authors are still kind of getting the shaft here. But check our show notes. If you are an author and you've got a mission that's still broken in some way, there's a specific thread where you go in there and paste your mission, your ID, what is broken about it, and apparently the devs are going to take care of them for us.
Oh, let's hope so. So you're one of them.
Yes, yeah. Okay. My mission, don't play Fungus Among Us. It's currently broken on the last map, so it's a big old cock tease. You get up right to the last map, and then you can't complete it.
All right, moving on from there, let's talk about something that was sort of an interesting bit of double revelation this week. Part one is we've gotten some real actual model images of the new Enterprise F.
Yeah, actual in-game shots from like every angle conceivable.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. And let me tell you, on the live stream here, because we stream every episode of Stoked live over at jblive.tv at 11 a.m. on Saturdays.
We're crazy like that.
That's Pacific time. Really, it's just, when those features episode comes out in the game, at the same time, we're always doing an episode of Stoked on Saturdays. And one of the things that we really kind of dug through was the new images that came out on this Enterprise F, and really went through it. And I got to say, a lot of the shots I'm really happy with. There's a few angles where I'm not totally happy still with the neck, but if I try to visualize where the neck is and I try to put like maybe the Enterprise B's or the Excelsior style neck in there, I can kind of see it, and then it starts working for me again. It's just
like
wide.
The complete opposite.
It's the thickest neck that we've ever seen on an Enterprise.
Right.
And it still has a very thick neck.
The Enterprise F looks to me like very much sovereign-y, which is acceptable since E was a sovereign. I think that as we move on from that.
The chat room was saying very Voyager.
A little bit. I think that that's just a general, most of Starfleet's recent designs have tended to have that really elongated look to it, which is very sovereign-y and very intrepid, Voyager.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that's how they are these days. It's either that or the little escort things like the Defiant.
The back end of the ship, the butt, has some underhull detail that is just really, really nice. The other thing, I don't know if you noticed, you see there's a big trap door on the bottom of this thing?
Yeah.
For like a warp core ejection or something. And again, I'm just going to say one more time, I really like the design. I think one of the biggest departures is they recessed and put the impulse engines in a little further, has a very stealth submarine look, and whenever Star Trek ships pull from a little bit of stealth sub, I always think they have a more realistic look to them and a sleeker look, and I like that. What about you?
Well, on that specific one, I like the fact that they're recessed because it gives more opportunity for dynamic lighting to reflect on more surfaces of the ship. Yeah. So I think that'll give it a realer look.
A moody look.
Yeah. On a whole, the only complaint I have about the F is that when you look at it from the front, the typical hero shot, the nacelles, the struts that hold the nacelles in place, they look girly. They
do look a little girly.
They just
totally agree. They look, and I don't mean that to seem sexist. No. They look, because it's not girly like weak like that. It's girly like frilly.
They're like soft.
Frilly. They're frilly.
They're soft and delicate.
They're like a nice shirt with frills on it is what it is. And it's just a little too swoopy.
When the F comes out, which by the way has an official name, the Odyssey Class now. So when the Odyssey lands and we're able to obtain this, if I get a copy, I'll probably look for a variant for that specific part of the ship.
Yeah.
Which we've heard variants are going to be coming with the ship.
You thinking maybe you could swap those out. Now, Thomas the Cryptic Cat in the chat room says it's because she's a beautiful lady, Jeremy.
Well, Fine.
You can't disagree with that.
I want my ships manly, apparently.
Oh, okay. Otherwise, I'm really excited to see where the ship goes. I know there's been people in the forum that have been begging for a custom bridge. That might be a little overkill.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Although, if they put in art assets, because we do know, also because of this announcement, I guess we've known for some time now, that the F is going to feature into a future event.
I'm really excited to see how that works in, and that also means they do have some time.
Mm-hmm. Now, what if during that event, at one point you're taken to the bridge and introduced to the captain of the F, whoever it is? It's probably Data. We haven't heard a confirmation on that at this point yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're taken to the F's bridge and they have to put in those art assets anyway, why not offer it as a C-store purchase?
Oh, right. Now, another component to the whole revealing of the Enterprise F is how it was done in conjunction at StarTrek.com.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Stahl, you might have heard of him. I think he works in the reception area.
I think he's related to David Stahl, who you guys probably
his
know.
brother David runs the company, and that's how I think he got hired. And anyways, so they needed something to give him something to do, so he's blogging now over at StarTrek.com.
Mm-hmm.
And at first,
because he's not busy enough.
I know, right? Yeah, jeez, the poor guy. At first, this didn't really click with me.
Yeah,
but
I didn't think about it until later on. You brought it up to me.
Well, then I thought, what an interesting fact that it is. Why are they? I thought, well, why is it being revealed on StarTrek.com? And I thought, well, the Enterprise is being added as a piece of canon to this game that was voted by Star Trek fans, and it's like this. It's like they're opening hailing frequencies to just the general Star Trek audience that they maybe haven't pulled in yet, with like this olive branch of, here's this new thing that you, the Star Trek fans, have designed to continue to add to a timeline that is otherwise now stagnant.
Right.
And we know you love this timeline. And look, this game, it's living in this game over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of opens up in a way, like I think, probably some level of interest to general Star Trek fans that aren't yet playing.
Yeah.
Because, this is the Enterprise.
Right. This isn't just a Star Trek Online thing.
Right. It's the Enterprise.
This is the continuation of canon.
It's CBS-approved Enterprise.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of maybe piques their interest. And then I think what you hook them with is UGC, because it's Star Trek fans making Star Trek content, and as a Star Trek fan outsider, that just got to blow your mind.
Right.
You might not know about it until you start reading more about it. And then the other thing is, and I've said this for a while, and Jamin, I know you think this too, is these weekly featured episodes are Star Trek Online's long-term major competitive advantage, along with the UGC.
Right. Yep.
Because this is an audience who. That weekly episode is like a companion to them in a sense.
And we've gone on record as saying that when we're getting featured episodes on a regular basis, it's like we're watching Star Trek every week.
Well, and
we've got our new shows.
You've got a community, and you've got a fan base that inherently baked into their DNA now for the last 40 years, on and off.
Mm-hmm.
More off than we'd like to admit, as there's been a weekly Star Trek nugget, and it's ingrained into this player base, and it's something that clicks with them. And now that Dan is now reaching out to the general Star Trek audience through StarTrek.com, blogging there, which sounds like there's going to be more blogs telling them about what's happening in the game. This is a bridge to bring those players in, and potentially part one of probably a multi sort of tiered approach to sort of hedge bets against the eventual release of
I have
Star
a few
Trek:
kind
Old
of
Republic.
behind-the-scenes notes on this.
All right.
In just general, it's nice to see StarTrek.com active again. Because even at the point where we launched the show, I think
it was shut down for
or had just been reactivated. From about
Probably,
2007 to 2010, it was a defunct website.
Yeah.
Which is really a shame for StarTrek.com.
Dude, I go so far back to StarTrek.com that I back in it must have been 1995. I signed up for MSN.
I think it was before that.
Just so I could get to something they called the Star Trek Continuum.
Right. That was the predecessor to StarTrek.com.
Yeah, it eventually became free, and then I canceled MSN.
Right.
But it was, so when they shut it down, a little part of me died inside.
Yeah.
So it's great
they
to see
laid
that.
off everybody in 2007. It was this big deal that they were just kind of abandoning it, and Star Trek fans everywhere weeped.
Memory Alpha has a great write-up on it, in fact, and according to our write-up on Memory Alpha, it is still owned by CBS.
Yes.
It wasn't sold off or something.
No, I think it actually was reactivated as part of the spin-off of CBS
Interactive. Yeah.
Where they started to increase their online presence, and they decided to bring back StarTrek.com.
So just to wrap up the Enterprise F part, I think it is not just a new gameplay element for us STO players, but it is a great how you doing to the Star Trek community in general that isn't playing yet.
Absolutely.
That's exciting. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, so you guys leave us comments wherever you're watching this episode. All right, J-Man, now let's talk about the big news item of the week.
First of all, I just want to ask, how many hours did you spend just wandering the grounds of Starfleet Academy?
This was so much fun. This was one of those situations that only happens in MMOs where you have the perfect influx of I'm sitting around and somebody in our IRC room says, hey, Starfleet Academy's up on Tribble, and the devs are there. I'm like, okay. And I jump in, and so I go there, I hit instance 1, nothing's going on. Dead. I'm like, oh, I missed it all. And then I get a PM from Murphy. Murphy says, come over to instance 2. The devs are here. I get there, massive Borg invasion going on Tribble, tons of fun. Then people start learning how to exploit the game and getting up on the roof and running. You did a little bit of this.
Oh, yes. Some of our fleet mates showed me how to get past the fence that keeps you in the grounds. So, I was running across the bay.
Running on the water.
And climbing mountains and getting on top of buildings and everything, shooting tribbles down at everybody running.
So when things got, now I'd already logged off by this point, but I guess as things got a little out of hand, Dan Stahl was there as a Borg and went up on the roof and was just like one shot kill.
Slaughtered us.
It's like, all right, end this now. Wow, okay. But that was a ton of fun, and the map is just gorgeous. It's got to be one of the most beautiful maps I think we've seen yet in the game.
Well, now, I agree, but remember you mentioned that one of the first times that you logged in, you kind of thought it was a little Champions-esque.
But, going back now, looking at, there's a great shot in the opening sequence of Star Trek Voyager Season 5, Episode 4, In the Flesh or something like that. And one of the opening shots in there is revealing of Starfleet Academy, and it looks almost spot for spot. What
they took a little bit of liberty with the actual ground, so there's more space. Yeah,
because it looks cheap in Voyager.
It does kind of. It's filled with this big old pond, and that's completely worthless.
Yeah,
and Boothby would never have a pond where he could be growing plants.
Right? Jeez. So those concerns of mine pretty quickly melted away, and it's super functional and slick. Those shuttles you see flying around are full-size real shuttles.
Yeah, I mean, when I was cheating and flying up there, they were like going right past me, and they're monstrous.
Yeah, they are. So what do you think? Anything else?
I loved seeing all the cadet uniforms walking around. It really kind of, to a certain degree, it brought home the fact that this is Starfleet Academy and not just a new social zone for Star Trek. I mean, this is different than Earth Space Dock. This is where the newbies are supposed to go to learn. On that note, I'm still really waiting for the new tutorials. This just made me just chomp at the bit.
Yes.
I got to see those as quickly as possible.
One of the other things that impressed me about it is it does seem to fit in really well, just based on the limited visuals we've seen. Here's the thing about Star Trek. If you really think back over all of the series, at what point do we really spend in the 23rd or 24th century on Earth? If you listen to DVD commentaries and things, they specifically avoid it just because of the high production costs of building sets that look like future Earth.
Right.
So the designers, I gotta figure, didn't have a ton of stuff to pull from.
Right.
Academy's probably one of the better covered ones, but even still, the interior stuff they came up with, adding of the extra rooms, they had to really create that stuff from their own imaginations, I'd imagine. So I'm impressed by that too.
But I just love it. I spent seriously like 2 or 3 hours wandering around.
Yeah.
There's also a little trivia mini game thing where you can.
I totally missed it.
There's these little plaques that are homages to
did
different
notice
episodes
that.
and movies and stuff like that.
You know
if you get them all, if you find all 7, I think there are of them.
Dude, I'll do that.
You get an accolade and a title.
Awesome.
The title is Boothby's favorite.
Oh, okay. The chat room was talking to me about that, and I thought, now, what are these plaques? I totally remember, because I read 2 of them already.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, they're like a reference to George and Gracie and a couple others.
I love building that in there. It's fun to celebrate the fact that this game is based on a history that we all love.
Totally.
Are you ready to jump into the engineering report?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Ton of meat in the engineering report this week. You got to say, right? This is some of the best stuff we've got to pick through in a while.
Yeah. I think I went on record the last couple engineering reports have been a little bit of flops with me personally. I mean, there was a couple of gems in there, but by and large, it was kind of the same stuff.
Nothing really grabbed your wiener. I agree.
Right. So this time around, though, there are some really nice little tidbits included. Although I got to point out that one of my favorite bullet points is that they're currently in testing is lots of tickets.
Yeah, lots
from
of tickets.
Season 4.
Oh, man. As an IT support professional for many years, I know when the ticket queue gets maxed up, that is some stressful stuff. It's hard.
It's just funny that it's part of the engineering report. It's an official in-testing feature.
Well, you bet. You put enough resources on something, you want to make it count. I agree. Hey, it's like I had a botched vasectomy. I try to get as much mileage out of that on the internet as possible.
Absolutely.
Hey, if you got to go through it, You want something out
Yeah,
of it.
claim it.
You get internet cred. All right, so...
there's a few new zone. There's a new zone coming.
Yeah.
It's like a open ground combat battle zone of some sort. And I think it's going to come with the new board content.
Something on... Oh, so not like it's not something on Andoria.
No, this isn't like a PvP arena or something like. This is like
Okay.
an open, like an adventure
like a
zone.
DSE only for ground.
Yeah, I guess in a way, sort of.
Yeah, probably, right? I love that, actually. Why don't we have that?
I think we're about to.
And now we got the new ground combat. We should totally have that.
Yeah.
Plus, it's kind of like it could in some way become like my new Starbase 24 where I go to test out my ship abilities.
If they let you bring your buffs, because that's kind of an important part of ground combat.
You got to be able to bring your boss.
Right. Like if you currently use like breaking the planet or something, one of the fleet actions to test out your new ground builds, you can't bring your buffs along.
Can you do that now that they have the Qs too? I don't know how that...
You still can't bring your buffs.
Okay. Well, so that'll be interesting to see where that goes. Mm-hmm. I'll save. I have probably 2 or 3 favorites in this, so I'll save them because I know one of the things you want to mention is the new social zone stuff.
Yeah, there's not new social zones, but they're gonna be fleshing them out with new trivia and lore missions. They call them. So like from now on, when you go to Andoria, there's gonna be something more there than just a NPC that sells you hypo sprays.
That's good.
Aside from the PvP arena that they've been talking about adding to Andoria and Vulcan and Kronos and Rura Pente, which are gonna be awesome. I think that those are great places to have them. Mm-hmm. Plus, don't you want to go to Vulcan and get your Lurpa on?
Of course. Of course. I mean...
But anyway, when you
go... I can go Warp 9 so I can run around and get that stuff anywhere I want to go. Sure, I got to go to Vulcan and get that. Why not?
Some of these zones are going to be adding little lore missions. So when you go down, you'll be introduced to some of the backstory of that zone. Given... They kind of did this with Vulcan through a diplomatic mission, but now they're just going to be able to say, like, go and check out the statues and... learn more about the background of this
Something
area.
just to enjoy this more Trek. Oh, great idea. And way to make it feel more Trek without having to invest a ton in new art.
Make you feel more like part of the Trek universe.
Yeah.
Because some people that have been detractors for this game have said that it feels too much like just a generic sci-fi MMO theme that happens to have some Trek.
I don't think you can make that claim anymore. I think some of the early detractors...
They have more things like Starfleet Academy. Absolutely. Yeah. You cannot make that claim anymore.
No. I mean, and now Earth Space Dock looks like Earth Space Dock. I think that was a big thing that a lot of people were sort of reacted to, and now that's been taken care of. And, now, as people have been hanging out at the level cap for a while, it sounds like we're going to get possibly a few new goodies too.
Yeah, well, they're adding some new equipment sets.
Yeah, stuff at the end game. So stuff that you're going to have to work your way up to, but some new carrots.
The engineering report says 6 new end game gear sets, 3 for space and 3 for ground.
Oh, nice.
Now, hopefully, these are going to include some unique graphics as well, just like some of the other previous sets did, like the Aegis and Borg and the Breen set and everything like that.
I love those.
I love all of the new effects that they've added to all of these sets overall. More importantly, though, they're going to be adding those kit and armor graphics as tailor options.
Yeah.
So now you're going to be able to mix and match.
Yeah, and I think for you, see, I saw that and I thought, okay. They're also I think one of the places you'll be able to toggle the ability to show the effects of the kit is in the tailor now too.
Right.
That makes sense.
I'm hoping that it's also modular design because like there's as an example, there's a tactical kit that has like, it's got like bandoliers and stuff sticking all over you, but it's also got this really awesome wrist thing that looks like
that one right now. Yep,
that's looks like one of those. I just want the wrist thing.
Yeah,
I don't want the rest of all of that. So if they add that option to the tailor to be able to use pieces of kits,
I rolled the new season 4 tune, and the wrist thing is badass.
It is absolutely.
Now this one combining all marks into a single scaling emblem currency. Oh boy,
I think that's an excellent plan.
Yes,
I'm sick to death of all the marks of exploration and everything of 12 different ranks that they have.
I completely agree. It's just one of the things is you don't want to get weighed down in things that feel like money and currency too much in the Star Trek world.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like you go in now, you know that you have to be able to exchange with other species, and not everybody's going to be no money, and that's always been kind of a bit of a gray area. But
also, I mean, think about it. Even if they do take all the marks and combine them into scalable emblems, you still have credits, you still have Latinum, you still have merit and honor. So, I mean, there's still going to be some... I'd kind of rather see all of the currencies become one thing.
Well, I don't...
maybe not credits. Credits still have a purpose.
Here's something, though.
Their purpose right now is to be ignored.
Yeah. Well, credits seem like they should be the interspecies exchange format.
Yeah.
Credits are, and then emblems are your in-Federation format. And another thing in regards to emblems, and this is, I think, what I feel is one of the most important little bullet points on the engineering report, is you're now going to, at some capacity, be able to exchange emblems for C-store points.
Yeah. I'm leery about this.
I think this could have huge impacts on the economy and on the game, especially if at some point you end up seeing game time cards added to the C-Store.
See, I've always thought that eventually that would probably happen. I foresee a future when STO will be free to play. I don't think it's in the immediate future, but maybe a year or two down the road. I think it will. If at that point, if you're offering game time cards for in-game currency or for real life, if there's a way to buy it from other players in-game, like Eve has their little
I was going to ask you about that,
thing,
yeah.
Because Eve's has been such an intrinsic part of their economy from the beginning, it's great.
Yeah.
It's perfect. But tacking on something like this later on in the game makes me really hesitant because it could just totally throw the whole economy on its head.
Well, you don't know. One thing we don't know is how many emblems. I mean, we could be talking millions of emblems.
Well, and also, I mean, we're speculating on the fact that eventually game time cards might make it to the C-Store.
Right.
That's not anywhere on the card. It's not in the engineering report.
I gotta feel, though, I mean, in some way, there's some sort of amazing, beautiful circle of life of earning emblems to pay for game time.
And, you know, for a lot of people, there are people in our fleet that have thousands of emblems banked up, and they've already bought all of the gear that they can for their high-end character.
That is hardcore.
Yeah, but maybe they don't want to spend money for cadet uniforms. So now, if they have a friend that is willing to pay them C-Store credits for their extra emblems.
That's why I would not be surprised to see game cards never make it on the C-Store, because if you are just doing it for like tailor things and stuff like that, this is sort of a way for them to come through on the everything in the C-Store could be achievable in-game or equivalency of thereof.
Right.
So now if you can't 100% meet that, you can at least have this asterisk over there.
It's a quick fix, like a workaround, kind of a detour to get to the same place.
Everything is achievable in the C-Store in-game, asterisk. And you read the asterisk and it says, if you get the emblems.
If you sell your emblems to your friends.
If you sell 1 billion emblems. And nobody's going to want emblems. I don't know. We'll see. Because, that's the other thing. But it's a very interesting change up to the game.
It is. I'm going to watch this one very carefully because it could be mishandled, I think.
I'd say the last item we should probably cover on the engineering report, of course, the whole engineering report is linked in our show notes, but the last item was more of just sort of an opening discussion, and one that has probably been going on now for many months.
I'd like to take credit for it. We brought it up.
Whoa. Well, so what we're talking about here is one sector space to rule them all, one continuous sector. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago how they did mention there's some new possible partitioning magic, so it would kind of to the user look like one zone, but logically on the server it's spliced
it's kind of streaming in.
Yeah. What do you think? You think this is just a must-do?
I think it is. I think that also I think a revamp of exploration content needs to come along at the same time. Some sort of dynamic exploration that can happen while you're traveling through sector space.
I could agree with that, yeah.
So I think that this is so Trek. It needs to be. I mean, right now we feel like we're flying around in boxes that just happen to have doorways between them.
Yeah,
and that's not Star Trek, really.
And you've convinced me that sector space needs to stay. We shouldn't be traveling in our ships because it's really one of our core social elements. We see other people's ships and see what they're doing.
Right.
I'll just say that is an interesting conversation that you bet we're going to keep following so that way we can keep you updated on the show. Because
it makes sandwich time so much easier.
Yeah, it would, because I could make a good sandwich.
Yeah.
And space is big. It should take a little while to travel.
It should.
And a lot of us have little ways, like I have an Excelsior. I can jump around. People have quantum slipstream drive. So, yeah. All right, J-Man.
I have an alt-tab function.
You ready to
just set the autopilot and tab out?
Are you ready for Tweet Leaks?
Okay.
I serenaded the neighborhood with that one.
Great.
Okay, so the first one fits right in with Starfleet Academy. We've got a new cadet uniform.
Yeah, and you've probably already seen this if you've been down to Starfleet Academy. You've seen these walking around. I'm not that all impressed. I don't think the color schemes work entirely.
Oh, snaps. Look at you getting no judgy on the colors. I think the overall look is simple and basic like an Academy uniform should be.
But they basically, a lot of the uniform seems to have replaced the standard red that was seen in TNG. With
Skeeter's with you in the chat room.
With the new blue.
Says, should be red. Should be red.
I don't think that the blue works. I think that's my problem with it. Maybe it's just an indication that Starfleet has moved that far towards science.
Right. Good. Good for them, even though they're killing more species at once than they ever have before.
That's right. All right. In the name of science.
Also, some new Klingon love, in the form of some new armor.
Yeah, and now there have been some detractors saying that these look a little too primitive, but I love the responses that they've made to that. Is that the Academy? Oh, we also have a shot of the Academy.
Oh, yeah, the new,
and a Gorn standing there in his cadet armor out in front of it. It just looks primitive. It looks like this is the place that the Klingons have been training their warriors for centuries.
Exactly. That's what I like about it. It implies a historical lineage of the Klingons, and that gives them depth, and that's what I like about it.
And I love that the cadet armor also looks like something that's been around for centuries.
Tradition. And we know how tradition-bound the Klingons are.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. I'm glad you went that way because I was going to hate on you if you were all agreeing.
It's awesome.
Okay, all right. Boom, boom. I was ready to sock him, but no, you got it. All right, now, some definitely Klingon love. Now, okay, tons of Borg stuff.
Tons.
We're building towards this Borg invasion. I'm getting more and more excited.
I got to send a special shout out to Captain Logan for posting almost all of these ship shots and concept arts and everything like that. Really great to see all these just being thrown in our faces to get us excited about this coming up.
Yeah. So we got new spheres, and these new spheres are maybe a little bigger and more textured and a little more blue.
The texture looks better.
More subtle lighting.
Yeah, absolutely. They look a little eviler.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
There's also some new revamped Borg probes that are from an episode of Voyager. There's an episode where they're in there, and they kind of almost look like a flying coffin. It's really creepy to me. Yeah. It's got a kind of a creepy look. And then we've also got to look at the new shield animation around the...
Yeah, no more of those circular shield rings clipping into the body. Yeah. Also, in this same shot, and it's not mentioned, but it is brought up later on the forums, I found out, phasers will now collide with the exterior of those ships instead of just beaming all into the middle little central point and clipping into the middle.
Yeah, good. The new Borg Diamond ship.
And at least where I got the link from, the name of the image is Borg Queen.
Oh, it's the Queen ship. Yeah, in
it's not a guarantee because this is actually from somebody found it in the Foundry.
Well, in one of the Voyager episodes, when you see her in Unimatrix 1 or Unimatrix 0, I forget, she is flying in a diamond-shaped cube like that.
Ah. Yeah. It's a hive ship, apparently.
So, also another tweet leak here as probably some early concept art of what possibly an assimilated station would look like.
Oh, God, so awesome.
It looks scary.
I think my favorite part about this concept art is that it starts to bring home some of the Narada look, too, of the Borg assimilation.
Good call.
The
totally
classic Borg thing has always been cubey, circular, very specific, but as recently they've started to become more pointy, more like shards sticking out in different directions and things like that. And this concept art really has that going for it.
I like it.
Yeah.
So I think that's everything in the tweet leaks, right? That's it, right?
That's it.
That's it. All right, Jay.
What do you mean that's it? That was epic.
That was epic. That was a ton of good stuff. I mean, it's a great week to come back.
Yeah.
All right, now let's jump into community feedback.
Right. I'm on the ground. Yeah, I think that's important.
Time for community feedback, and as everyone knows, we've got the new Starfleet Academy added to the game now.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah. But there's one little elephant that's in the room. Well, maybe he's not so little.
No, it's really quite big, actually. And I just mentioned it earlier in the episode, is right now Starfleet Academy is basically good for nothing but walking around.
It's pretty.
Yeah, it is pretty, but there's really very little functionality included in it. So it's time to step that up a notch. And actually, right now, I think is the perfect time.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. There's nothing we could say that will make it into the game guaranteed. But what if we could inspire the devs to maybe add some functionality down the road when their schedule allows for it? And we thought the best way to kind of get a flavor of what you guys want to do is let's run a poll.
Now, before we get into actually what each of the options are, I want to mention that we took some out. We talked to the chat room ahead of time before the show, and we got many suggestions, but we took some out, including like suggestions for the new tutorial and anything that would include you going down to Starfleet Academy and then immediately zoning to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because we want it functionality of the Academy.
For example, one of the suggestions was you could go to Starfleet Academy and then test different ship builds, which is an awesome idea, but probably more appropriate for Space Dock, not so much for Starfleet Academy.
Or maybe even Utopia Planitia if they put that in around Mars.
Yeah. So that's one thing to keep in mind. These are things we want to add to Starfleet Academy itself, so you have something to do while you're there.
Yeah.
All right, J-Man, you want to start on a couple?
Well, some of those ideas include an ability to test your ground builds. So, I mean, there are holodecks there. This would be awesome to be able to go in there and hit like a temporary respec button. So you can respend all your skills, get any weapon that you want, and then shoot at target dummies.
You get a one-time thing, and they could have like a little target come in there, or that'd be awesome.
And I'd like to add that some of that functionality is already present in Champions Online. There is a test dummy zone, and when you go in there and respec, your spec is not locked until you leave that zone.
I would like to see that exact system because it works so well
Yeah.
in Champs. I'd love to see if there's something like that could be recreated in STOked.
Absolutely, and this is the perfect place to do it.
One thing that kind of plays off something we mentioned, there's one of the options in there is a Trek trivia thing. You could play off the getting the plaques.
Yeah, originally when we were brainstorming things, he also called it a psych test. Apparently there was an episode. It's not coming to mind. I must have blocked out because it's Wesley Crusher.
Yeah, yeah. It's like one of the first 2 seasons. Wesley goes down there, and it's one of the first times you see like the not the tellers. What are the guys that have the steamer thing? Anyways,
yeah.
That you see, and he goes down
Benzite.
there. Yeah, good job, J-Man. He goes down there, he has to take a series of mini game tests, and then then there's a scenario called the psych test where he's tested to see what happens, and he has to come up with a disaster solution.
But in terms of game mechanics, it would be hard to really have any sort of a reason to have a psych test for your captain.
I would think it has to be more like the mini game style thing.
Yeah, and I would love to see more Trek trivia. So I think that Starfleet Academy is a great place to have you go through the memory alpha logs. And
it's got a good practical twist to it because it's really dialogues that would have to be added. There's no real art asset. You just go to an NPC and then start a dialogue session or maybe like a console or something.
Although they totally could. I mean, give us a mini game, right?
Yeah, well, that'd be awesome. Now, this next one on the list that people could vote for is probably a hot one for you.
It absolutely is. Mission replay. Now, they've added mission replay to the holodecks, but you still have to then beam up to your ship and travel to the location.
I would love to see something. So think of this when you're voting for this option. You hit the replay button, and then it just immediately takes you to that first zone. You don't travel. It's just, if it's you warping in, you've started the holodeck simulation, and you're just, boom, you're zooming in.
I would also love to see added to that some sort of a, showing the holodeck getting activated.
Oh, yeah, zoom.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Something.
Even if it was
just like a shimmer effect, and then you load.
Because then it's going to be the loading screen.
Right.
And just call this like mission replay upgrades, and enhance the way you do mission replays, because that I think makes more sense. Because why would you have a simulation where you travel? That just sounds incredibly boring. I love the firing range idea for ground weapons, because that could work in the holodeck as well. It's another option in the poll.
Even if they don't implement the whole spec option that was the first thing in the poll, it'd be great to just be able to go somewhere and shoot at things.
Yeah.
Just see what your weapons do.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of different weapons in my inventory. Which ones do what? How do they sound? What do they look like? It's a good way to learn what they do.
Yeah.
And now this last one here, give me some thoughts on this. What do you think of like a PvP arena? Like a Starfleet Academy dodgeball?
I think it would be great if it also included some sort of special weaponry that actually fired like tribbles or something at each other. That would be awesome. But I included this because I know there are a lot of people out there that just love PvP, love to be able to duel with their friends. So this is basically an option for you. If that's something that you would like to see added for at Starfleet Academy.
Yeah. I'd be surprised to see if that one pulls ahead too far. But then again, if it does, I think it'll probably have a pretty clear lead. So go over and vote over in the show notes. You can find those at jupiterbroadcasting.com and find STOked episode 91. And right in there, there'll be a poll. You can click your vote. And again, that poll will close on the Saturday that we shoot the next STOked.
Right.
So get those in now so you can get them in your answers in episode 92.
Yeah, and if you have any specific commentary that either isn't addressed in the poll or you would like to see something else that we didn't put in the poll, instead of emailing, which is usually what we ask, why don't you go ahead and put your comments right below the poll, right in our show notes?
Yeah.
So you can just respond directly to that.
We're thinking that way, when we go to pull all those out, we'll know exactly where to go to find everything. So that way we don't have the inbox
We don't
chaos.
overlook anything.
Yeah. We don't want to miss it, so that way we'll know exactly in what context you meant the comment for.
Plus, those are public.
Yeah.
So if anybody else has a commentary on what
people
you've
could do
already
replies,
said.
and I encourage that because we always take those people's comments into consideration too.
Yep.
So it's a good way to go. All right, everyone. Well, that wraps up the 91th episode of STOked. We're right on the way to 100, J-Man. I'm milking it. And just a reminder, we shoot these live over at jblive.tv, and you can rock out with our live chat room because the live chat room is the place to be, and they're always giving us information. And sometimes you even hang out with a few cool folks from Cryptic.
What?
I know, J-Man. It's a fact.
There are no cool folks at Cryptic.
I'm not sure where to go with that. It's such a stinker to end on. Let's just say they're cool in my book. You guys, right? Right. You can send your hate mail to J-Man at STOked at jupiterbroadcasting.com.
Well, at least then they'll email me, right?
Oh, J-Man, I'll give you a hug.
Oh, thanks.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching this week's episode of STOked, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Okay. All done.